The girl in the dark cell. The cell was cold. The walls were made of black metal. There was no window, no clock, and no sound, except for the soft buzz of the lights and the slow drip of water from a rusty pipe. The air smelled like metal and old blood. A girl sat in the corner, her back against the wall. Her skin was pale blue and her arms were full of marks, cuts, bruises, burns. Her eyes were large and golden, but now they looked empty. She couldn't cry anymore. She had no tears left. She didn't remember how long she had been there. 1 day, 3 days, a week. Time was broken inside that dark room. Her name. What was it again? They called her Subject 9, but that wasn't her real name. She had a name once. She had a mother, a little sister, a forest where she used to sing with the wind and laugh under the bright moons. Now those memories felt like dreams. Every day the same thing happened. The door opened. The Zarkons came in. The Zarkons were a cruel alien species, tall, with dark scales, sharp teeth, and no mercy in their hearts. They wore black suits and always had tools in their hands, tools made to hurt, to test, to break. They spoke in cold voices. Begin the experiment. Raise the temperature. Push the limit. She screamed at first. Loud, painful screams. She begged. She cried. She told them to stop. But they never did. They only watched, took notes, and smiled. Now, she didn't scream anymore. Now she just waited. Sometimes she hoped she would die. But something deep inside her didn't let go. A small voice whispered, "Not yet." That day something was different. It started with a sound, a low boom in the distance. The lights in the hallway flickered. The floor under her body shook. She opened her eyes slowly. What was that? Then another sound, closer this time, like a blast. Then shouting. Zarkon voices, angry and afraid. She sat up. Her body hurt. Her hands were shaking. But she listened. More explosions, screams. Then silence. Her heart beat faster. Was it just another test? A trick? Or? The door of her cell clicked. She froze. No Zarkon had ever come quietly. They always came with loud boots with machines rolling behind them. But this time it was just footsteps. Fast, uneven, light. Smoke poured into the hallway from somewhere far. A red warning light blinked across the ceiling. Then she saw him. A human, not in a soldier's armor. Just a dark jacket, dirty pants, and blood on his face. He held a strange-looking blaster and moved like someone who didn't care if he lived or died. He looked at her. She looked at him. Time stopped for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice rough but kind. "Are you her?" She didn't speak. She was too weak. He looked around, checking the hall. "I saw your file. I didn't believe it. But now I see." She leaned against the wall. "They'll come back." "Not if we leave now," he said, moving toward her, but she shook her head. "No, you don't understand." Her voice cracked. "They put a tracker inside me." The man stopped. His eyes narrowed. "Where?" She pointed to her side, just below her ribs. There was a small scar, barely healed. The man stepped back and looked at the hallway. "So they know where you are, always." She nodded slowly. "They will send the hunter." He cursed under his breath, but then he did something strange. He knelt beside her and gently lifted her up. She was light, like a child. "I'm not leaving you," he said. "Tracker or not, we'll figure it out." She wanted to ask him why. Why help her? Why risk his life? But she couldn't find the words. She just held on to him. As he carried her down the dark hallway, alarms began to scream. The red light turned bright, and from far behind them the heavy metal roar of machines began to rise. The hunter was coming, but for the first time in days the girl felt something strange inside her chest. Hope. The reckless human smoke filled the hall behind them. The alarms were loud now, screaming red warnings through the broken facility. But the human didn't stop. He moved fast even though the girl in his arms was barely conscious. Her head rested on his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, strong, fast, wild. She didn't know his name. He hadn't told her. He didn't ask, for hers either. And still, he carried her like she mattered. He kicked open a broken side door and ran into a maintenance tunnel. Pipes hissed overhead. The walls dripped with old coolant. The air was thick. He paused only to check his stolen scanner. 5 minutes, he whispered. That's all we've got. The girl slowly opened her eyes. Why are you helping me? The human didn't look at her, because someone should have helped my brother, but no one did. He didn't explain more. 1 week ago, Dane sat at a dirty space station bar. His knuckles were still bruised from a fight. He had been kicked out of the human military too. Years ago, for disobeying orders, for speaking out. But he had seen what the Zarkons did to prisoners, to children, to aliens that couldn't fight back. His younger brother, Cole, had been captured by Zarkons during a scouting mission. Days later, Dane got a single file from a black market informant, a photo. It showed a broken human body strapped to a lab table. No face left. No life. Cole was gone, but on the screen, in the background of the photo, Dane had noticed her, a young alien girl with golden eyes full of fear, still alive, still screaming. Dane slammed the screen shut and whispered, "I'm not letting it happen again." That's when he stole a ship. Now back in the tunnel, Dane felt the scanner buzz in his hand. The signal was stronger. The tracker inside her was lighting up. "They know you're gone," he said. "They're sending something big." The girl didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her fingers gripped his jacket, trembling. Suddenly, a deep mechanical growl echoed through the pipes behind them. Dane stopped. "Stay quiet," he whispered. He turned his blaster toward the noise. Something moved in the shadows. A Zarkon scout drone, small, fast, armed with stun darts. Its red eye blinked as it floated closer. "Shh!" Dane fired first. The blaster sparked. The drone crashed into the wall, spinning, twitching, dead. He didn't celebrate. That was just the first. The tunnel ended at a broken lift shaft. The GI elevator was long gone. Only empty darkness and steel cables remained. "We go up," Dane said. The girl looked up the shaft. "I can't climb. I wasn't asking you to." He slung the blaster across his back, tied her arms gently around his neck, and started climbing the cable with shaking hands. Halfway up, the metal creaked. A new sound echoed from below. Thump, thump, thump. The girl whispered, "It's here." Dane looked down. Out of the dark, a silver claw reached into the shaft, 3 long blades shining with green light. The hunter had arrived. The human climbed faster. His muscles burned. Sweat poured down his back. The girl whispered to him, "Let me go. It's me they want." "Shut up," he growled. "If they want you, they have to kill me first." The hunter launched a grappling spike up the shaft. It missed them by inches. It hit the wall above and exploded. The shockwave knocked them sideways. Dane nearly fell. The girl screamed. But somehow, he held on. He grabbed a metal beam and pulled both of them out onto the next floor. The hallway was dark. Broken lights. Old wires. But safe. For now. He placed her down against a wall. "Breathe," he said. "We're not dead yet." She looked at him with wide eyes. "Who are you?" He wiped sweat from his brow. "Name's Dane, and I've got one rule." She blinked. "What rule?" Dane raised his blaster again. His eyes were wild. "Never leave the innocent behind. Escape is not freedom." The stars looked fake. That's what Riala thought when Dane kicked open the rusted metal door and dragged her out into the open jungle. For 7 long days, she had been trapped in darkness. Now the night sky was wide above her, black, endless, and covered in strange stars. But she didn't smile, because freedom didn't feel safe. Dane dropped to one knee, breathing hard. His body was shaking. The vines and roots around them glowed faint blue in the dark. Strange bugs hummed in the trees. Behind them, the lab was still burning. He looked back once, as if making sure it was real, like they actually got out. "You okay?" he asked. Riala didn't answer right away. She was staring at her own hands like they weren't hers. "My legs feel broken," she whispered. "They're not," Dane said. "You've just forgotten how to use them." They hid beneath thick roots hidden from the sky. Dane checked his scanner again. It was cracked. Useless now. "They'll be tracking you," he said. "We need to keep moving." "But where?" she asked. "This world belongs to them." "Not this part. This jungle's on the edge of the Zarkon zone. They gave up trying to control it." Riala frowned. "Why?" Dane loaded his blaster. "Because things out here eat Zarkons." The wind shifted. Something deep in the trees made a sharp growling noise. Dane stood up fast. "Move!" He tried to help her walk, but her knees collapsed. She hit the ground hard. He cursed, lifted her again, and carried her. "Sorry," she muttered. "Don't be," he said. "You're not the one who forgot a medkit." As they walked deeper into the jungle, the trees began to move. Not from the wind, but from life. Long vines crawled along branches like snakes. Flowers blinked open with soft lights. The ground pulsed softly under their feet like it was breathing. "I've never seen plants like these," Dane said. "I have," Riala replied softly. He looked down at her. "You know this world?" "I was born here." Dane blinked. "Then, why were the Zarkons testing you?" She didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed ahead. But after a few seconds, she said, "Because I'm not like the others." Suddenly, the ground cracked beneath them. A pit opened and Dane almost fell in. He jumped back just in time, but a swarm of red insects flew out from the pit, buzzing around them. Riala screamed. The bugs rushed toward Dane's face, stingers out. Before he could shoot, Riala raised her hand. She didn't speak. She didn't shout. She sang, a low, haunting note, like a hum from deep in her chest. The bugs stopped. They floated in the air, then slowly drifted away. Dane stared at her, eyes wide. "What was that?" She lowered her hand. "It's part of me." He looked shaken. "You control insects?" "Not just insects," she pointed to the jungle. "The forest listens to me. It always has." They moved again. This time, Dane didn't ask questions. He just followed her voice. But after only a few minutes, Riala stopped walking. Her body stiffened. "What is it?" Dane asked. She slowly touched her side, right where the Zarkons had placed the tracker. "It's vibrating," she whispered. Dane moved fast. He ripped open a side pocket on his jacket and pulled out a small knife. "Wait," she said. "What are you—" "I'm getting that thing out." She backed away. "You'll hurt me." "I'll hurt you worse if I leave it in." But before he could move forward, a sudden roar echoed through the jungle. Trees bent. The sky lit up red. A spotlight flashed from above. A ship had found them. No, not a ship. A hunter beast, Zarkon made. Half machine, half animal. And it was already landing. Only meters away. Dane looked up, eyes cold. Riala trembled beside him. She whispered, "We're not free." Dane raised his weapon. "No," he said, "but we're still alive, and that means we fight." Hunter from the skies, the trees screamed, not with sound, but with movement. Birds shot into the air, leaves twisted, roots curled in panic. Even the air felt heavy, like the planet itself was holding its breath. Riala could barely stand. Her feet were sinking into the soft moss. Her golden eyes stared up in terror. Above them, the sky burned red. The Zarkon hunter had arrived. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a beast. It was something in between. Its body looked like a flying lizard, covered in black armor. Red lights blinked on its wings. Long, sharp claws hung below its belly. And underneath, a mouth, not for eating but for screaming, opened wide. It wasn't searching. It knew exactly where they were. Dane grabbed Riala's hand. Run. She didn't argue this time. She ran. The hunter dived. A laser beam blasted, the trees just behind them. Fire exploded across the jungle floor. Riala screamed. Dane pushed her down just before a second blast missed her head by inches. They rolled behind a thick tree trunk. The heat from the explosion scorched Dane's. "Jacket, this thing's too fast," he said, panting. "It'll fry us before we reach the river." Riala shook her head. "We won't make it to the river." She touched the tracker scar on her ribs. "As long as this is inside me, it will always find us." Dane stared at her. Then, without warning, he pulled his knife. "What are you doing?" she gasped. "No more running," he said. "Hold still." She backed away. "You're not a doctor." "No," he snapped. "But I'm the only one stupid enough to try." Before she could stop him, he grabbed a burning stick from the ground, still red hot from the blast. "This is gonna hurt," he muttered, and then he pressed the stick to the blade. It hissed. He turned to her. "Bite this," he said, handing her a leather strap from his jacket. She hesitated. "Please," he said, softer now. "If we don't do this, we're both dead." She bit. The strap, he cut. She didn't scream, but her body arched with pain. Blood ran down her side. He dug fast, sweating, shaking, wiping away mud and blood until, click. He pulled out a tiny metal chip glowing red. The tracker. He looked at it, then at the hunter still circling above. "I've got a gift for you," he growled. He tossed the tracker into the trees and fired his blaster at it. The hunter's head turned instantly. It followed the tracker like a bloodhound. It swooped down, straight into the glowing vines where Dane had thrown it. The forest moved. Not wind, not machines. The jungle attacked. Thick vines shot up like snakes, wrapping around the hunter's wings. Giant flowers opened and sprayed acid. Sharp roots stabbed up through the soil, piercing metal. Riala watched in silence. Her voice was calling them. But she wasn't speaking. She was just feeling. The jungle was listening to her fear. Dane stared at her in disbelief. "You're doing this?" She nodded weakly. "I don't control it. It just responds to me." The hunter screamed. Not like a machine, but like an animal dying in pain. It struggled, lasers fired wildly, but the jungle swallowed it whole. And then, silence. Only the soft hum of glowing leaves. Dane sat down beside her. They were both covered in sweat, blood, and ash. "You're a weapon," he whispered. She shook her head. "No, I'm just a voice. The forest is the real weapon." He looked into her tired eyes. "Why were they torturing you?" Riala closed her eyes. "Because they wanted to teach me pain. They believed it would unlock more power." They were right. For a moment, neither of them said anything, then Dane spoke. "Tracker's gone, Hunter's dead. But the whole Zarkon network probably saw that show." He stood up and pulled her gently to her feet. "Let's move before the next one shows up." Riala nodded slowly, but in her heart, she knew something had changed. She had felt it in the roots, in the ground. Something ancient had noticed her, and it was waking up. The human's final breath. The forest was quiet now, not peaceful, waiting. The glowing vines had gone still. The roots no longer moved. Even the wind had stopped. It was like the jungle was holding its breath, watching. And so was Riala, because Dane wasn't moving. He had collapsed after the fight, face pale, hands shaking, blood running from his side. She had thought it was just from pulling the tracker out. She was wrong. There was shrapnel in his stomach, metal from the hunter's blast buried deep. He hadn't said a word. He had carried her, fought for her, bled for her. And now he was dying. No, 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 she whispered, dropping beside him. Her hands shook as she tore open his jacket. The wound was ugly, blackened around the edges, burning. "You idiot," she cried. "Why didn't you say anything?" Dane's lips curved into a weak smile. "You were busy, talking to trees." She slapped his chest gently. "Don't joke. You're bleeding too much." His eyes blinked slowly. Seen worse. He hadn't. He was fading fast. Riala looked around. The forest glowed gently like it wanted to help, but didn't know how. She grabbed a root, held it tight. "Please," she whispered. "Please. Help him." The forest didn't answer. Because the forest didn't understand him. It knew her. It heard her. But Dane was alien to this land. Strange. Human. The forest didn't love him, but she did. She leaned over Dane and pressed her forehead to his. "I won't let you die," she said, voice trembling. "You don't get to save me, that's not the deal." "Too bad," she said, then for the first time she sang, not for fear, not for defense, but from the heart. A soft, broken song in her own tongue. A song of healing, of life. The vines stirred. Slowly they reached for Dane, wrapped around his chest, his side, his wound. Dane winced. "Is it hugging me or eating me?" "Shut up and breathe," she snapped. The vines glowed bright white, and then nothing. Dane's body went still. His eyes closed. Riala froze. "No." She put her ear to his chest. No sound. She hit his chest once. Twice. "Breathe. Dane, please, breathe." A beat, then another. He gasped, suddenly, loudly, like someone pulled him out of water. He opened his eyes, blinking like he'd been underwater for days. Riala sobbed with relief. "You idiot," she whispered. "Don't you ever do that again." "Wasn't planning on it," Dane muttered, "but thanks for the forest CPR." He sat up slowly. The wound had sealed, but not healed. "You bought me time," he said, touching the glowing vine. "Not a cure," she nodded. "Then let's not waste it." As they prepared to move, a small figure stepped from the shadows behind a tree. A child. Blue skin, glowing eyes. Same species as Riala, but younger. Watching silently. She gasped. You're not from the lab." The child tilted his head and whispered, "You woke it up." "Woke what?" Dane asked. The child pointed to the ground. Then he looked up, eyes wide with wonder and fear. The old voice, the one under the roots. "It knows you now." And before they could ask anything else, the child ran into the trees and disappeared. Riala stared at the forest. Something had changed. They weren't just hunted by Zarkons now. The planet itself had taken notice. The thing that follows. They weren't alone. Not anymore. It didn't breathe. It didn't blink. But it watched. From the moment Dane opened his eyes, it had started following them. At first, they thought it was the jungle, a shifting shadow behind the vines, a soft clicking sound on stone, trees that moved without wind, but as the hours passed, it got closer, not hunting, not helping, just studying. Dane finally stopped walking and turned around. "I know you're there," he said. "Come out." "Nothing." Riala narrowed her eyes and whispered, "It's not hiding. It's learning." Then something stepped forward. Not a beast, not a drone, not a Zarkon. It looked like a copy. A half-formed shape, tall and metallic with a glowing core in the chest. Its limbs were smooth and silver, but slightly bent, like it wasn't sure how to walk. Its head was round with a cracked visor where a face should be. It tilted its head at Dane, and then it spoke, in his voice. "Don't shoot. I'm not here to kill you." Dane raised his blaster instantly. "I will shoot if you don't explain in 2 seconds." The silver figure took one slow step forward. I am a memory, a fragment, a piece of something broken. Riala moved closer to Dane, eyes locked on the figure. You're not Zarkon, she said. No, it answered. I was once Zarkon made, a hunter mind. But when it pointed to Riala, called the forest, I saw something new, something I had never been taught. Dane lowered his weapon slightly. You're an AI? A forgotten one, it replied. Damaged during a jungle war, left to rot underground. I watched for years, I forgot who I was. Riala frowned. Then why follow us? The figure looked directly at her. To learn. I saw you speak to life. I saw the jungle answer. I want to understand. Dane crossed his arms. You want something else, say it. The figure paused, then said, Teach me, and I will erase the Zarkon files on her. Silence. Even the forest seemed to wait. Dane looked at Riala. She was pale, shaking. The Zarkons had tortured her to study her biology. If they still had her data, they could build worse weapons. Try again. Hurt others like her. She met Dane's eyes. This could be a trick, or a trap, he said. Or, she whispered, a way to finally destroy what they took from me. Dane turned back to the machine. One question, he said. Why should I trust something built to kill? The figure replied calmly. Because like you, I broke my programming. Then it stepped back into the mist and waited. Not forcing. Not chasing, just waiting for an answer. Riala looked down at her hands. I don't want to be a weapon, she said. Dane gently touched her shoulder. Then teach the machine what a weapon isn't. Behind them, the sky was starting to glow. A red flare. The Zarkons had found the hunter's wreckage. More were coming. Dane looked at the figure and said, All right, we'll teach you, but if you lie... I don't lie, the machine said. I remember. But as they walked deeper into the forest, something else began to stir beneath the roots. The ancient thing the child had spoken of, the voice under the earth, it too had started to remember, and it was watching them all, her real power. The ground was whispering, not with voices, but with memories. Every step Riala took, the jungle seemed to respond. Trees bent slightly toward her. Roots curled at her feet like greeting hands. Even the mist moved aside when she walked through it. The forest had chosen her, but she didn't know why. Not yet. They reached the top of the stone ridge by dawn. Below them, fire. Zarkon warships had landed in the valley. Black towers had risen from the earth overnight. Soldiers in rows, drones in the sky. It looked like a war camp, but it wasn't built to fight an army. It was built to catch one girl. Dane raised his binoculars and muttered, They brought a whole battalion. He looked at Riala. This is what they think of you, what they fear. She didn't look scared. Not anymore. Behind them stood the broken Zarkon machine, still following, still learning. It didn't speak. It simply watched. Dane pointed toward the east. We go around through the canyons. Avoid the main force. Riala shook her head. No. He blinked. No? She turned to him. No more hiding. No more running. They tortured me. They studied me. Now they can see what I really am. She walked to the edge of the ridge and dropped to her knees. She placed both hands on the soil. Then she closed her eyes and listened. The machine tilted its head. What is she doing? It asked Dane. He didn't answer, because he didn't know either. Then the earth moved. All of it. The valley floor began to rumble. The jungle trees behind them bowed forward, not from wind, but from will. Vines thicker than trucks slithered out of the forest, crawling toward the Zarkon camp. The roots cracked the earth open. Stone walls rose from the ground like fists. Birds scattered. Drones lost control and crashed. Zarkon soldiers screamed and fired blindly, but they weren't fighting an army. They were fighting the planet itself. Riala stood. Her eyes were glowing gold and green, like sunlight through leaves. The wind circled her like a shield. The jungle didn't just listen to her anymore, it obeyed. She spoke only once. Soft but clear. Leave this world. Or be buried by it. Her voice echoed through the valley like thunder. Dane stepped back, eyes wide. She's not a weapon, he whispered. She's a storm. The machine beside him nodded. Now I understand. The Zarkons tried to flee. Too late. The vines crushed their ships. The roots wrapped around their legs. The trees bent low and swallowed them. When it was over, only silence remained. The jungle was still again. Birdsong returned. The mist cleared, and in the center of the valley stood Riala, alone, glowing, alive. She didn't fall, she didn't faint. She simply breathed and smiled. Dane walked toward her. She turned to him. I thought I had to run from who I was, she said. But the human who saved me taught me something else. He raised an eyebrow. What's that? She stepped close and touched his chest. That power means nothing unless it protects what you love. The machine came forward and dropped a data chip at her feet. I've deleted every file the Zarkons had on you, it said. I owe you more than memory. Riala picked up the chip and placed it into the soil. I don't need them to forget me, she whispered. I just need to remember who I am. And with that, the jungle closed around them once more. Not as a cage, but as a home.